guys, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're having a great day today. I hope the lighting is okay. I have a lamp on, my light on, and I'm sitting in front of the window, but it's kind of cloudy out. So anyways, I just wanted to do a little story time today and tell you how I almost died. And I'm sure a lot of you have these almost died stories. Mine is kind of an awareness as well. And so I'll get to that later on. So I'll go ahead and get into it, but first I just want to remind you, if you watch my videos and you're not subscribed, you really should subscribe. There's going to be some good stuff. So make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, to be notified when my videos go up. I know that like my favorite people, and I have a lot of favorite people on YouTube, I have to hit the notification bell because I'm like Sarah Ray Vargas, for example, I thought I had the notification bell hit, but like I haven't seen her videos pop up in my feed or whatever forever. So last night I was like searching for her. I'm like, where is she? I love watching her try-ons, but anyways, yeah, so I'm gonna tell you this story here. Don't forget that I do have a 100 subscriber giveaway. So make sure to watch that video, enter, and then if you watch my Boxy Lux unboxing, there is a way in there that you can get an extra entry for that. Subscribe. What is it? My 100 subscriber. Okay, so anyways, I am going to tell you my story. So just have a seat and pour yourself a cup of water or whatever you drink. I just looked at water over here. Okay, so anyways, let's get into it. So my story starts December 2014. Technically it starts before that, but this is the main part. So we'll start with that. Okay, so December 2014, I think it was on December 9th maybe. I know it was on a Wednesday. I woke up that morning, and at this time I was working at a chemical dependency facility, rehab facility, and I was a client relations coordinator there. And on Wednesdays I worked in the evening, so I worked from noon to 8. Each of us kind of took turns working in the evening. So I woke up a little later than normal, and so I ended up, what do you call it? Oh yeah, I got up. I have a 2-story place, townhouse, and so I was walking downstairs and I was like, wow, my calf really hurts. And it was just my left calf. My other one didn't hurt. And I was like, did I pull a muscle? Like, I don't remember exercising, so I don't know how I did it, but I probably pulled a muscle somehow. It kind of felt like a Charlie horse, basically in one spot in the back of my calf. So anyways, I ended up going to work that day and it was hurting pretty bad. So I thought, well, I'm gonna walk down on my lunch break and go to the chiropractor. My chiropractor was about a block away from where I worked. So I walked down there, and you know those ultrasound machines that they use where they squirt the jelly on and then they kind of take the wand thingy and go over it, that kind of heats it up and like helps the muscle loosen up a little bit. So they first did an exam, no swelling, no redness, anything like that. So then they did the ultrasound, and you know, I didn't really notice any difference. So I ended up working, etc. I took ibuprofen, didn't really help. The next day it still really hurt, but I wrapped it thinking, you know, if I wrap it up, maybe it'll help. Still my other calf didn't hurt. And then I ended up, let's see, Friday we had to do like this fun training or whatever. And so I remember having it up on a chair and like I was almost in tears, like it hurt. And I mean, I'm not a wuss, so it hurt. I guess when I had my son, you could probably say I was a wuss, but so anyways, I called and made an appointment. It was with a PA. It wasn't my doctor. It wasn't at my doctor's office because they didn't have any open. So I went to a different office, same hospital and everything, or same clinic, but just different doctor I'd never seen before. I wanted to go see somebody because of the pain, and also because I was going out of town to my parents. My son and I were, because my uncle from Ohio was there that week, and so I wanted to see him. And so we ended up, I went to the doctor. She took a look. She put my legs together, said, you know, one's not swollen more than the other, you don't have any redness, so you probably just pulled a muscle. So she gave me like a muscle relaxer, and then I can't remember, something that they give, I can't remember what med it was. But yeah, anyways, so it was a non-narcotic pain reliever. Why am I thinking it starts with an M? I think they give it to people with like arthritis and stuff. I'm not sure. But anyways, so I went and picked up my son, and we ended up going to my parents. So that night I kept it up, I kept it wrapped, I was icing it, I took the meds, didn't help. So the next day, probably about halfway through the day, it was a Saturday, I started kind of getting a cough, and it was like a tight cough. And about 4 months probably before that, I had been diagnosed with pneumonia and bronchitis. Or was it bronchitis, pneumonia? I don't know. Or both. So I was like, crap, you know, because it kind of felt tight, and I was like, oh, I'm getting it back again. So I remember we went to the casino that night for something fun to do, and it's about a half hour away. And my uncle gave me cough drops. And I mean, it soothed my throat a little bit, but it didn't really stop the cough. So anyways, we walked around the casino, we had fun, this and that. And the next day, my son and I were getting ready to leave and come back to where I live. And I was like, man, I am so exhausted. Like, I'm so tired. And my parents live out on a big farm. And so when you leave, you have to walk out along a pathway all the way out to the driveway area. Or the lot, whatever. And by the time I walked out there, I was like, oh my gosh. I was so breathless. Like, I couldn't breathe hardly. I was like, man, I think I am getting my pneumonia back. So I was talking to a friend of mine on the way home, and it was me and my son. And her and I we adopted a family for Christmas, and so we were going to go to Walmart, meet up at Walmart when I got back into town, and we were going to go shopping there. So anyways, we're driving, you know, it's still the cough, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to call Ask a Nurse. I think it's Ask a Nurse, or yeah, Ask a Nurse. And so, like, you can, sorry, I have a hair. You can call and talk to a nurse, and, you know, you tell them your symptoms, whatever, they tell you if they think you need to go in, you know, that kind of thing. They can't diagnose you, but they always seem to overreact, it seems like, but they have to do that, you know, to be better, to be safe, right? So we're calling, and we're about 20 miles from where I live, and I was like, you know, I had pneumonia before, I don't know, do you think I should go into acute care? Like, it's hard for me to breathe, and I'm like, and I've been having this weird calf pain. And I said, I've had it since Wednesday. And she's like, you need to call 911 right now. And I said, well, I'm actually on the interstate. I'm about 20 minutes away. I can just drive to the emergency room when I get there. I'm like, what? So, and you know, I should have been thinking. I mean, I went to nursing school about 10, 12 years ago, but I haven't worked as a nurse for a while. So I should have been thinking, but I wasn't. I think when you're your own patient, or you're the patient, you just don't, I don't know if you guys are like that. Anyways, but so when I called my friend back, and I said, hey, I'm not going to be able to meet you. I called Ask a Nurse. I said, I need to go into the emergency room, or for me to call 911, whatever. And she's like, are you sure? Like, we don't just want to meet and go shopping first? And I'm like, you know, with the way that I was short of breath, like, I'm afraid to. Or, you know, just too exhausted. So anyways, I get into town and drive to the emergency room at one of the hospitals. And when we went inside, my son was with me, and I walked in, and I was like really short of breath. And I said, like, you know, like, how can I help you? Like, I'm getting all ready here. And I said, I can't breathe. I have calf pain. You know, I just remember being like, you know, and they like super quick, like, got a wheelchair and put me in it. And she called whatever on the walkie-talkie or whatever thing, and she's like, blah, blah, blah. So then they took me right back to a room with my son, and they got me up onto the table. And I just remember when I got to the room, there was like 6 or 7 people in there. They were checking my oxygen. They were putting the oxygen on me. They were starting an IV. I mean, it was just all this stuff at the same time. And, you know, it's like crazy, because it was like kind of like, you know, like Grey's Anatomy, like when a trauma comes in and there's like, okay, do this and this and this and this, you know, like that's how it felt. And so my poor son, you know, my 8-year-old, was sitting there, and he was just, you know, I can imagine how he felt. So then they said they were going to take me down to get a CAT scan of my lungs. So they did that, and one of the nurses was so great. She took my son, went and got him a snack and all this and that, and so they took me down there, and ended up, I came back, and it was, you know, sitting there, and, you know, I was breathing better. I had the oxygen on and this and that, and I remember the doctor coming in, and he was the ER doc. I remember he had his arms folded, and I remember him saying to me, we got the CAT scan results back. You have multiple blood clots in your lungs, pulmonary embolisms. He said you have one that goes straight through your main pulmonary artery from one lung to the other. And I just instantly started like tears. And I remember looking over at my son, and he was trying not to listen or not to look. And I remember he was looking up at the TV, and the look on his face, like seriously, I could cry still thinking about the look on his face that day and how scared he had to have been. So I said, I'm going to call my mom. Can you tell her? And so he told her, and he said that they would be admitting me. And at this time they were starting me on a heparin IV. And if you don't know what heparin is, it's a blood thinner. And it's one that like starts working right away. Other ones have to build up in your system a little bit depending on what you use. So they started me on that. And then I called my son's dad, and he came and got him. And my mom came up with my uncle, and they were there pretty fast. So anyways, by this time it was like evening, and one of the residents sat and talked to me, and, you know, just kind of telling me everything, and, you know, like going a little bit more into depth about it. And I was like, well, what about my leg? You know, like I didn't understand quite. I didn't really study blood clots, you know. That's not something that I dealt with. I worked in dermatology as a nurse. So, you know, I didn't really understand. And they ended up moving me up to my room, and it was a step-down ICU, so it wasn't a regular room, wasn't ICU, but it was like right in the middle, and so I still had a lot of people watching me. So then when they went to move me from the rolling bed to my hospital bed, they told me I could not move. Like, let them do it. They would pull the sheet, pull me over. I can't move. So I didn't move. And I couldn't get up to go to the bathroom, none of that. So that was a lot of fun. That night they came in and they did some imaging of my heart, an echo. They said that my heart was a little bit enlarged. I think on like the right side. I can't remember exactly. But then they brought someone else in. They had to put like bubbles in through my IV and make sure they come out of the heart all right and this and that. And then the same doctor came up and told me that from what they saw, that part of the left lower lobe of my lung had died because of lack of oxygen, and that I could cough up some of it, which I didn't end up doing. So anyways, the next morning, they told me that they talked to a doctor over at one of our heart hospitals, and that they would be transferring me by ambulance over there. The guy, he's a thoracic surgeon, and so they said that they'd be transferring me over there. They're going to be doing a procedure. So I remember that day, it was Monday, and it was, yeah, the next day after I was admitted, yeah. So it was Monday, and we were having a snowstorm, and I remember my stepdad drove up to Sioux Falls, up to, you know, where I live, and it was so bad, and the fact that he drove through that, like, that means a lot to me. But anyways, you know, I don't know. So anyways, I got taken in the ambulance. Remember that ride through the snow? That was interesting. And I get to the heart hospital, and I'm in the emergency room in the heart hospital, and they started giving me something to kind of make me sleepy. They were prepping me for this procedure right away. So I remember going in for the procedure, and I was awake, but not fully awake. And they were kind of explaining it to me. And so what they ended up doing is a procedure called thrombolysis. My blood clots were bad enough that they needed to do it. So they took and cut open part of like the groin area and through the artery, like took this, I don't know what you want to call it, like a tube, basically, a tiny little thing, and fed it into my lungs to where the clot, where one of the main clot was. And I think it was the left side first, and then it was the right side, whatever. So anyways, they, what it did is it had to sit there, and it would shoot out clot busting medicine like right on the clot. So, you know, when I got to my room after that, and I had to lay flat, like I had to lay flat. So when I got back to my room, my mom was crying. My uncle, I mean, some friends came up to visit me, and when they left, they were crying, and I'm like, what's wrong with everybody, you know? So anyways, I find out by reading the notes later, this was maybe like 2 years later, I went in and I was reading my medical records, and they had me listed in critical condition, and then critical but stable. And he said if I would have waited any longer, and also he told my mom he didn't know if I'd make it. So no wonder she was crying. Nobody told me this. But so anyways, the next day they took me back in and they did a CAT scan and checked and everything, and that part on the one side had dissolved. So that was really good news. So then they went in and moved it over to the right side. And so then I had to lay flat again. So I don't know if you've had to lay flat for like 30 some hours ever, but it's not fun. So they gave me a lot of pain meds because I have a bad back anyways. So I wasn't really allowed to do anything, get up myself, obviously. I remember that there was the Hallmark Christmas movies on, and so that was really awesome, but I was kind of out of it most of the time. And I remember friends of mine afterwards saying, someone should have taken your phone away, because like I would call people when I was drugged up on pain meds, and I would take selfies and post them on Facebook. So anyways, good news was they were able to like break up most of that clot. One other thing that they did was they did a Doppler of my leg, my left leg. So they started up at the groin, went all the way down to the ankle, and I was told that the blood clot was from my ankle to my groin, so my whole entire leg. And then at the top, it had broken off, traveled through my blood, went through the heart and into my lungs, and got lodged there. So basically, I got pretty lucky. What was the other thing? Yeah, so they did the Doppler. Then when I could get up, I was so exhausted, and it was really hard. Like I went to the bathroom and I couldn't hardly breathe, and my heart rate would go up, but it's because I had less lung capacity because there was blood clots in there. And so anyways, I ended up being in there for about a week, and I finally got to get out. When you go through something like this, you know that, well, and it was close to Christmas too, so I ended up going to my parents' place. But the first night I was out, I remember calling the Ask a Nurse or whatever for the clinic and being like, you know, is this normal? Is this normal? Is this normal? So having constant anxiety, when you already have anxiety issues, you know, you're constantly worried that you got another blood clot, or I can't breathe, maybe it's something else. I tried to go to my son's basketball game the next day. I had to leave early. So, and then we called the doctor's office, and I was like, you know, I'm having pain, da-da-da. Well, then we ended up going to my parents for Christmas, and on the 23rd, I was down in one of the spare bedrooms at my parents' house, and I was talking to my son, and I was kind of laying on my side, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have this really bad pain. And so like I couldn't take a deep breath. It was like I was like and it hurt so bad. And so I was like, oh my gosh, do I have another one? And so ended up getting a hold of paging the doctor, and he told me to go to the emergency room. My parents live out on a farm like 3 miles from town. My mom was going so fast. And they ended up doing a CAT scan. I did not have another blood clot, but I had pleurisy. And so that's what that pain was. Oh, one other thing is they ended up putting in an IVC filter, and it's a permanent filter. It goes in the vena cava, and that was to prevent the blood clots from breaking off, and it stopped them from going up into my lungs again. There is some controversy around those. You've probably seen the commercials where they talk about them, but mine is a different one that doesn't have all the lawsuits on it that they show, and mine is permanent. So let's see, that was that. So I almost died from that, and I never thought that I would have a blood clot, and ended up, let's see, 3 months later, I ended up having a hysterectomy because I had some female issues. I had endometriosis, I had fibroids in my uterus, and so they ended up and I became severely anemic because when you're on blood thinners and it's that time of the month, it's hard to even go anywhere. Plus I had the fibroids and endometriosis. So we decided with my age and, you know, like with the risk of having more kids, that we were gonna do the hysterectomy. So they ended up doing that. I ended up staying in the hospital 2 nights. They ended up giving me a blood transfusion because my hemoglobin was like at 6.7. I reacted to the second bag of blood, so they had to give me Benadryl. I went home from the hysterectomy, then I had major pain, had to go back in, I had a hematoma, like one of the stitches popped because I had a cough. So, but my doctor, my gynecologist, one who did my hysterectomy, is like the best doctor in the whole entire world. She canceled her day of patients and stayed with me and fixed me and made sure I was okay, because they had started me back on my blood thinners. Then they had to give me fresh platelets to make sure that my blood would clot again. So I don't know, it's just pretty crazy. So after that, a little while, I don't know, a month or 2 later, they wanted me off of my blood thinners. They had tested me for like factor V and all the genetic testing. So then after that, they ended up taking me off of the blood thinners so they could test me for other issues. And I ended up getting a lot of tests done, and I found out that I have Antiphospholipid Syndrome. Antiphospholipid Syndrome. And it is an autoimmune disorder. So the reason I'm doing this video is because this month, June, is Antiphospholipid Syndrome Awareness Month. And I had never heard of it before. So I just wanted to show you guys real quick here. They gave me pictures of my lungs. And so here is the clots. And you can see this here goes up, and that's where they were trying to break up the clot. And then you can kind of see it like in this one too, there. But I mean, you can see down here how there's like no blood flow. So let's see if it says which lung this is. I think it was my left lung. But yeah, so those are what they look like before being dissolved. The pulmonary embolus that I had, it was a saddle emboli, and 1 out of 3 people do not make it. So your odds of making it with a saddle emboli, they typically find them in autopsies. So it's really scary. And so I just kind of want to spread awareness of this. And this is not something that I ever expected to happen to me. So I just wanted to give a little bit of information on the antiphospholipid syndrome. So basically it's an autoimmune disorder. It's very rare. What happens is the immune system attacks normal proteins in the blood, and makes it so and the proteins are responsible for not having the blood clot. I mean, you're supposed to have it clot, but like not have it clot. And you can get blood clots anytime. They can form in the arteries, the veins, organs. And one of the other biggest things, and this is where if you are a woman who's had many miscarriages and they can't figure out why, have them test you. Because I belong to a group on Facebook, like a support group, and there's women who have had 16, 17 miscarriages before they were diagnosed. So it's a lifelong, it's treatable, but it's not preventable. I take a blood thinner called Coumadin all the time, every single day, and then about once a month I have to go in and have my INR checked. The only blood thinner that is FDA approved is Coumadin, and I know other people who take other stuff, but also the antecubital area right here is what is approved by the FDA to get a, what's it called? A finger stick isn't reliable. And so every time I've gone in for a finger stick, it's always way off. So anyways, you can also have lupus with this. I don't at the moment. And like I said, it can affect any organ. I have a total of 3, possibly 4 autoimmune diseases, which I can go into those some other time if you guys are curious. But let's see here. It can cause a lot, you know, and the thing is that there's times that I think that I'm like, I have a headache. I wonder if it's a blood clot, or I can't speak. Like, I feel like I can't think of words. Could I be having a stroke? Or my heart hurts, or it hurts over here. Could I be having a heart attack? Like, I still, how many years later, think about that. And so I try not to think about it a lot, but it can cause chronic fatigue. You know, it's also called Hughes syndrome. It's also been called sticky blood. I'm looking at my tablet here. And it says that it's often under-recognized and underdiagnosed, so a lot of doctors don't even think to check for it. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of, and like I said, the blood thinners lower the risk, which, like if I have to have a surgery, for example, I have to go off of my Coumadin and bridge over to Lovenox, which is a shot in my stomach. And I've been poked and blood taken and so many shots in my stomach since having this that it doesn't even bother me anymore, to be honest. So yeah, I'm trying to think if that was all I was going to say. But you can follow on Instagram, it's APS. They have a page on Instagram, and every day they come out with facts to kind of teach you. And so sometimes I post those on my Facebook just to make people aware, because you don't really think of blood clots. Like, I didn't think of a blood clot when I had the pain in my calf. I thought I pulled a muscle, you know? And so, yeah, I just want to make you guys aware, and I am curious, does anybody else have this? Like, leave me a comment, or, you know, have you had a blood clot? Sometimes people go in and they've diagnosed with a blood clot and they're put on blood thinners, maybe stay in the hospital one day and go home. But mine, being a saddle emboli, is basically the worst one, going in through both lungs, the main pulmonary artery, like I said. So yeah, really scary. I think, to be honest, my son was a little bit traumatized after that. He tells me that he loves me 50 times a day. You know, he'll be up in his room and I'll be downstairs and, Mom, like, yeah, I love you too. You know, he tells me that all the time. He's told me that he worries about me. If I cough, he says, are you okay? He's always worried about my health, my well-being, and so it's really hard for me with that as well. So just having him you know, be there and witness all that. And, you know, I know that people have seen, you know, kids have seen their parents go through things before too, but it's, you know, it's really sad. So anyways, that is my story. So let me know what you think. I know this is super long, and if you made it through, congratulations. Let me know if you want to hear more stories. I have lots of stories. I could tell you guys a story about a murder I witnessed. So, you know, if you want to hear, let me know. It's not something I really like to talk about, but I will totally talk about it. I mean, I've talked about it before, so, and yeah, so anyways, don't forget to subscribe. Let me know, comment what you think, and yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to leave the questions for me in the comments. I'll answer them the best I can. I've done so much research, but I haven't for a while, so I'm like, brain. So that's why like I get brain fog and all that kind of stuff, and you know, I'm exhausted all the time, and a lot of this is because of this. So anyways, and other autoimmune disorders I have. So I hope you guys have an amazing night, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.